if you've been in business for a while, there's one thing that you know: times are never the same, right? There's going to be good times, there are going to be bad times, there are going to be comfortable times, there will be uncomfortable times, there will be pivoting times, there will be consistency times, there will be war times where everything's going to hell, there will be good times where everything that you touch becomes gold. That's business. That's life. And the only thing that can help you survive at that time is no strategy. It's all up here how you approach the thing.
Came up from the bottom to the top. And the young is gonna never stop. And he always punching in the clock.
Hi, my name is Ajit. I don't know which specific part of story you guys would like to know about, but I come from India. That's where I was born, and I grew up in a household of 23 people. So very humble beginnings, and as life would have it, I had a chance to learn from the best of people that were around me, who were happy to mentor me and coach me very early on in life, starting with my teachers and then leading on to other entrepreneurs that were out there in the world. And I chose to be an entrepreneur, and that's where Mind Valley happened. I joined as an intern, grew the company to a dramatic level, and became the CEO. Then moved on to start my own companies, and now I'm co-founder of many different companies. But yeah, I've had my fair share of experience in entrepreneurship. I didn't intend to be an entrepreneur. I started my journey as how in South Asian community you're very much expected, and you might have heard the stereotype or experienced it, which is you're expected to be a doctor, engineer, or an accountant, and that's really the three careers that you're expected to choose. So I was training to be an engineer, only to realize that I hate it, and so I wrote a letter to my father saying I can't be an engineer. I don't know what I want to be, but at the same point in time, I definitely know this is not it. So it was an elimination process more than a selection process. Threw me into the journey of where my dad said, sure, you can not do engineering, but let me tell you one thing. I'm not rich. I can back your career. I can help you, mess around for 10 years and I got you, anything like that. I can probably fund your graduation. And that's pretty much where the buck stops. So figure it out in the next 3 years, what you would like to do. And that got me started at 17 on trying things out. And like I mentioned, it was an elimination process. I tried many careers, failed at many of them, eventually to learn that what I really loved was an integration of media and the internet. And education, which was my first love. My first love was teaching and education. But then I fell in love with media, and then I fell in love with the internet. As one of my startups would fail, I realized the potential of if somebody could tap into media or internet per se, how much it can be fruitful. And so I reached out to my group at that time. I was like, hey, listen, friends, I am looking for somebody who will train me in internet. I was in India, right? This is 2008. There was no careers in India around internet at that time. Internet was really new for India as a country. No thriving careers, at least, and nobody was willing to educate you on it for sure. And so one of my friends who lived in Malaysia at the time said, hey, there's this little startup who are very progressive as a company. They do personal development trainings, and they are good on internet. They sell their stuff on internet. So maybe you want to join them and you'll learn on the job. And so I said, yes. I applied to become an intern in the company. That company was Mind Valley. At that time, it was a small operation of like 10 or so employees. And rest was history. We were able to build that company. Again, if you guys don't know what Mind Valley is, it's a personal transformation company. We focus on integrating education and technology and bringing the best of education at the most affordable of prices for individuals that are not necessarily school going, but beyond that. So life education, you can say, in a way. It could be around any dimension of life: relationships, wealth, career, personal growth, stress management, whatever you say, learning, reading, everything. And that really became our focus. We brought together an industry that was very fragmented and didn't really have any qualified trainers, and there was no focus on product. It was focus on money. And so we said, well, we truly believe in the education that we create, and we think all our lives have been better because of that as individuals. Let's bring that to the world of what we think is high quality education. Created a platform called Mind Valley, brought some of the best trainers that are out there in the world, built that up, had a personal crisis in life where my past relationship wasn't really going through a very good phase, and I was kind of burning myself out in a way. And so I decided to reinvent myself, and ask myself the question, hey, what is it that I would like to truly do? which got me to start a company that supports coaches and trainers in the field of same transformation, to be able to learn the tools, techniques, the strategies, to be able to also be able to lead better transformations. Same problem that we found in the industry before, where there are a lot of trainers but not very good trainers. We said, how can we help people become better trainers? And that really was the birth of EverCoach, which is the company that we partnered in with Mindvalley to start as well. And ever since, I've started many companies because I just like doing it. I do it for the joy of it. That's really what gives me purpose and meaning in life, to create fun, exciting companies that I am fired up about, and I can have some useful impact in the world. So that's kind of the summary of everything in context of business, if that's hopefully some directive and leads to something
Yep.
useful to you guys.
What motivated you to go into the transformation space? What motivated you to go and link up with Vishnu? That's his name, isn't it? From Mind
Vision.
Valley.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vision is his name. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I, when I joined Mind Valley, it wasn't because of transformation. I was
Mm-hmm.
always exposed to the idea of transformation because I always had it around me, but I didn't know there was a place where people could learn about it. Like I always thought it was like, oh, you read books and you talk to people who were like ahead in the journey, have more experience, so more mentorship. Because of that, I was like, okay, I had always known about personal transformation. My grandfather was a coach to the community without having that title, so I'd always seen it around me, but I wasn't. I never understood that that was an industry per se that was there. So I joined Mind Valley because I wanted to learn how to integrate internet and media. It was less to do with education. And when I
Mm-hmm.
got into Mind Valley is when I realized there's a whole industry behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always a person that has always said, if you have a better product, and I always believed, if you have a better product, marketing will follow, business growth will follow. It takes time, but any good business does take time. So I'm comfortable with giving time to anything that is solid, and that led me to lean into the idea of actually studying what I was going to sell through media and internet. And that really turned me on to transformation. Of course, I've never stopped ever since. So that's really how I truly started taking the programs. Before that, it was books and conversations mostly.
What's one of your two things that you can provide to all the guys here when it comes to, because obviously they're in an industry now where they're going to be providing value. The biggest thing is people like value over cost. What are two things that you can suggest to these guys?
So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that we believe there are some business strategy that makes a business successful. Business strategies are useful, marketing is useful. There's nothing to take away from the value of that. But if you
Mm-hmm.
truly look at a business that got successful, you will find that it was either driven by an entrepreneur who was set up mindset wise in a very different way, or a CEO that was set up mindset wise in a different way. There was somebody in that organization that became the primary driver of the organization that worked tremendously hard on how they thought about things. Because, like any, and you guys are in business, right? Everybody here is in some version of business, right? Right. So
Some are in
if you
business, some
are
are
in
living work.
business, yeah. So if you're either starting a business or being in business, or if you've been in business for a while, there's one thing that you know: times are never the same, right? There's going to be good times, there are going to be bad times, there are going to be comfortable times, there will be uncomfortable times, there will be pivoting times, there will be consistency times, there will be war times where everything's going to hell, there will be good times where everything that you touch becomes gold. That's business. That's life. And the only thing that can help you survive at that time is no strategy. It's all up here, how you approach the thing. So it's the most underrated and very, very hard to put in a can kind of training. Like I can't give you a recipe of here's the mindset and now you've got it, because it's constant training, it's constant evolution. You're always working on it. It's a process. It's not a hack. You can't do it once and it's done. It's like going to the gym. Yes, you can go to the gym, but if you want to stay fit, you got to keep going to the gym. You can't stop it. You got to eat healthy, not one day, every day. Right. And that's how it's a way of living life. Entrepreneurship is a way of life that you're choosing. So you got to work on that mind every single day. So there's no way that you can say, oh, I worked on my mindset and I went to this one event and I worked on my mindset. No, go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, because you are not going to stop growing and life is not going to get like one track, because if it will, it'll get boring. And that's right around the time when you hit plateau, right around the time when you're about to fall. So if it's getting too much of the same like yesterday, know that fall's coming real fast and real soon, right? So you always want to keep growing. You always want to keep asking yourself the question of, how do I take the next leap? How do I go further? Right? So your mindset's the key. There is no way around that. That's the one thing that you absolutely nailed. And I wanted to kind of address that, is that yes, strategies, marketing, all of it is useful, but you will outperform all of your expectations and goals in life if you gave it enough time and constantly worked on it. That's really what the secret to success is, really. Um, if I was to give you two additional kind of subsets of that, because if you overarchingly work on your mindset, you've got it, because you'll find these two subsets anyways as a part of it. But if I was to give you some subsets, first is understand that you are a function of your expectations. That means if you expect something from yourself, it can either motivate you or can dishearten you, right? So set up an expectation. The way you set up your expectation is to set it up, but don't put a timeline to it. Let me explain a little bit with an example. Say you want to build $100 million company. Let's imagine that, right? You're all entrepreneurs, your big goals. You want to hit $1 million company, $100 million company, whatever your goal is. You want to build $100 million, you want to build $1 billion company, right? The moment you said, I'm going to build $1 billion company, what happens? One of two things will happen. One, you get really excited about it in this moment. Tomorrow, you get frustrated because you're not at $1 billion, right? So it depends on if it's today or tomorrow, if you're excited or you're frustrated, right? But the reason is, most likely when you said, I'm going to be $1 billion company, you put a timeline to it. You said it will happen in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? And because it's 5, 10, 3, 2, 10, 20 years, whatever the timeline that you gave yourself, frustration is a function of that timeline. You will stay excited if you know one day you will build $1 billion company, because you know it's work in progress and you can enjoy this moment as you build it. And the secret to keeping going and keeping doing the work or doing the work again and again is that you stay excited about the work, not the outcome. If you're going to be happy when you hit the $1 million or $100 million or $1 billion, that's not happening. You're going to give up way before that. So remember to stay present to the journey and enjoy the process, because right now is the only thing that you get to secure, right? So that's first subset, because you're a function of your expectation. Have high expectations of yourself, never discount yourself, but take away the timeline so you can give yourself the permission to enjoy the journey and not feel threatened by that you will never be enough, or threatened by that you will not hit your goals, threatened by that you will not be wealthy, because that's not the point. The point is not to be wealthy. The point is to create something that's valuable, right? And if you create something that's valuable, you will enjoy the journey because you're loving what you're doing. There's no other reason to do business, really, is to create something that's better than what we have already, right? That's the successful businesses you love are the businesses that create things that are better than what they were before, right? Look at which businesses you love. Most likely the businesses that created great outcomes for you better than anything else, right? So create businesses that have inherent value, have the joy of the journey. The second is that don't tie yourself to what happened in the past. What happens is we all, as human beings, are always learning from the experiences that are happening, right? So whatever you did, say 5 years ago, worked out, didn't work out, you fall back on that experience to know how today will be. The challenge with that is your past was your past self. It's not your current self. Your current self is actually greater than your past self because it already learned from the past self. But what happens or tends to happen is we tend to reflect back on our past experiences and take that mindset into our today. Somebody cheated you in a business relationship. You carry it forward to your future relationship, saying, oh, I can't do partnerships because, in the past, I was cheated in a relationship. Or somebody who didn't really fulfill their role in a relationship, you abandon partnerships because of that. Instead of saying, I learned my lesson, I'll have a better contract this time. I will write it in an agreement, which I recently found out most entrepreneurs got into business partnerships and don't sign contract, which was information to me, but apparently that's a thing, right? But that could be a learning experience from a failed partnership in the past. Doesn't have to be that you don't get into partnerships, you just got smarter, right? A lot of us carry money blocks from our past based on conversations that parents were having across the table. Money is scarce, money is limited, there's not enough money to go around. All of these stories that we carry around as children, because that's what our parents told us sometimes. There was dinner table conversations a lot of times. We tend to carry them forward. Learn from the past. Don't carry it around. You're a better version already. You've learned from it. You've grown from it. But what happens is we take that story of a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, and we use it in our life when we are 30, 40, 50 years old. So while we grew up in age, we never grew up in our mentality. So actively look and bring awareness towards, what is the story I'm telling myself here? When I feel scarce, when I'm not willing to invest, when I'm not able to find that opportunity of reaching out and connecting with people, if you are in sales roles, not being able to take a rejection, where does that story come from? Bring awareness to that. Because when you bring awareness to it, you'll find that story comes from something that didn't work out in the past. But you will also find out those were different circumstances. You were not this age, you were not this experience, you didn't have the awareness that that was happening. But now you do. So you're a different person, and so you can create a new experience. So reflect on your past, but not to live in it, to learn from it. Very often we tell ourselves stories and stories around, I've seen this, very many entrepreneurs tell stories about their successes and failures of the past or their college days, whatever. Great. Yes, you should know that story for stage and for driving learning for other individuals. If that's your role, I share my story to share that experience with the rest of the world. I don't live in it. I don't live in it. That experience just taught me. I've taken the learning. I've moved on from it. So should you. So learn from your past and move on. Don't live that story again and again. It's just not your truth anymore. That was your truth when you were a child. You're not a child no more. You're an adult. You've learned from it. You've grown from it. So move on from it.
What is your perspective on when someone turns around and says, find out what your why is for why you're doing what you do?
It's probably the most important thing to ask as human beings. Why do you live? Why do you exist? What's the purpose of life? It's a very difficult question. So I wouldn't try to force anybody in a corner and say you absolutely must answer that question. But it is probably one of the most important questions to ask at any point in your life, and to even re-ask yourself that question again and again, to say, why am I doing this? When you ask yourself the question of why do I exist, or what is my purpose in life, and you really sit and reflect on it, not try to hastily find the answer, sit with that thought, really inquire as to why do you exist. It creates this incredible force once you find it that is unstoppable. Because what happens when you know your why is everything else becomes meaningless. Everything else becomes unimportant. You have a hard time, you say, that's fine. I am doing for this larger purpose. So what happens when you put this larger purpose ahead of you? It's like all your internal stoppers and blockers and blockages don't have any space. Even if they show up, you ask yourself, okay, what's my why? That's my why. Let's go. Right. And that's the thing, right? Consistency over time creates thriving businesses. Consistency over time creates a tremendous amount of outcome because it compounds, right? It's like compound interest. You just tops on top of each other. But the reason why a lot of us don't find success that we want, that we seek, is because we're not consistent over time, right? So there's no compounding factor, right? And if you want to get the compounding factor, you got to stay the course. Staying the course, the most powerful force is your why. If you have meaning and purpose to what you do, you would do it a lot more powerfully, a lot more impactfully, and you will not stop. So absolutely ask your why. It's a very difficult question though. People think it's an easy thing. You can watch a video and find your why. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of internal journey to really be able to truly know the answer. Here's one thing, your why can change, and it's absolutely okay if that happens. So even if you don't have the perfect answer, if you create momentum towards a why that is showing up for you in that moment, move towards that. Why could be taking care of your kids. Why could be taking care of your partner. Why could be taking care of yourself. All of them are absolutely okay answers. And you can start with them. Eventually, because like I said, it's a journey. It takes years sometimes to find this. For some people, it's insight. It happens in the moment, or a psychedelic trip. Like people find their whys in weird ways, and you will find yours in your own weird way. And that's absolutely okay. But be okay if you're not finding your ultimate why, and what you find is the why for now. And that's okay. Start the journey with that, because it will be revealed to you when it's time what's your true purpose and what's your true calling. Even if it's not perfectly clear right now, just move in the direction of what is clear, so you can create movement and momentum, and you will discover more and more.
You take everything you just said and you meet someone and said, well, look, I already know what my why is, or I already know what my multiple whys are. What's the next piece of advice that you would give that person?
If you already know your multiple whys, and if you know your why, start creating an action plan towards it.
Okay.
That's your next step. If you know what drives you, there is no reason for you to hold back and wait for something else to show up. There is nothing else that's going to show up. Why is going to be, or has the potential to be, your biggest driver. And if you have multiple whys, start with the one that calls you the most. And that's where you start your journey. You start your journey with saying, okay, this thing is the big item right now that feels that I'm called to, I want to chase, I'm going to chase it. And you chase that. And while you will chase that why, you will find, and this is how universe works, or God works, whatever you believe in works, is when you start that chase, everything aligns for you. Even the next why will align for you as a path to finding what you need to find.
But if you could take maybe one thing out of that book that you think would be something good for all of us to know, if you're willing to share that, I guess maybe would be a better question. If you're willing to share it, what would that be? And secondly, where can we get your book?
You can get my book on Amazon for Kindle, and everything is all available there. I don't know if they're physical copies. We don't really keep physical copies for our books, except for Live Big, which is with the publisher. Rest of the other books are all digitally available there or on the EverCoach website. You can go to evercoach.com and you can get the book there. Now, if I was to give you one thing out of the book of coaching, I think it's the essence of the book that is wildly important. And I think the big difference it made, and the reason why I wrote it, was because if you would talk to the coaching industry before 2017 or 18 is when this book came out. If you talk to the industry before that, and if you looked at all the programs before that, they all focused on one thing and one thing only: marketing. They said, how do you sell your services? How do you sell this? How do you sell that? How to package it? How to do high-end sales? How to do webinars? How to do social media marketing? And that was the whole narrative. And when I walked into the industry, I was like, why the heck is nobody talking about how to actually do what you say you're going to do? Like, if I am in a coaching session with you, Brandon, if I don't drive a result with you, how the hell does it matter if I have a good webinar? Like, I beat the purpose of actually doing the job. And nobody is talking and training on the job. Like, nobody's saying, hey, the first thing that you should do is to have a solid methodology. Like, that's the foundation of business. It's like saying, work on your marketing and never work on your product. It's like, no, work on your product. And yes, work on your marketing. It's important, but it's not the main central piece. The central piece has to be your product. Has to be, else unless your product is your marketing, which is, I don't know how that works, but your product has to be something, and marketing is a way to sell your product. But the product has to win. So the essence of the book of coaching was that there are three elements for a coach to be successful. And we call it you, your methodology, and your business. The first part is you, which is the piece that we talked about. Nothing's going to work if you're not going to work here. You got to work on yourself, your energy, your mind, your psychology, all of that, your body, your health, everything. So you got to get yourself right, because if you're not right, you're going to lose motivation. You're going to lose energy. You're not going to do the work that you're going to commit to do. You're not going to work on your business, period. Because that's what happens with most of us, right? We lose motivation, we lose drive, we lose energy, we lose focus, whatever you may call it, but it's you. It's always you that use the first missing piece. The one thing that if you're not set up for is you, it's going to fail 100%. Nobody can make it work, right? So first is you. Second is your methodology, which is your product. How do you create an impact in somebody's life? Do you have a model, or are you just going to show up and go like, all right, we'll see. I've sold the program. Now what am I going to do? That was a great internet marketing gimmick that ran in 2007, 8, when the big crash came and all the amazing internet marketers said, sell your product and then make your product. great when the market didn't understand what the heck they were buying and the people who were selling didn't know what they were selling. But market has evolved. People like us have shown up which say, no, if you don't deliver your promise, refund my money or I'm going to sue your ass. Right. So not sue, but I'll ask refund or whatever it is. It's like, I'll tell my credit card company to say, dude, what are you charging me for? This person didn't deliver the product. Right. So we said, no, work on your methodology, get a result for your client. Let them be, let them have such a great, joyous result from you that is your marketing. And then the last piece was understand your business, because business is not only marketing, by the way. Most of the entrepreneurs that are hit one day and flop the next day, and everyone has seen one of those or many of those, is because they understood marketing and sales. They didn't understand business. They didn't know how to get their finances in order. They didn't understand longevity of business. They didn't understand customer service, customer value. So you got to understand business in holistically, not just one thing, which is how do you drive more sales? You got to understand the ecosystem of running a business. So those are three elements, and we discuss that in the book of coaching. So that's the summary of the book in a way, and that's what we talk about in the book.
Before I kind of got into this program and got into more of the business space and that, I was a family doctor for about 14 years, lost my license about 15 months ago. So I'm interested in putting a coaching program together myself. My difficulty is that I'm having a bit of trouble kind of focusing down into a specific topic. I've sort of got an interest in weight loss, burnout, and sort of life coaching in general. And so I'm just curious if you have any advice for that.
Here's, if you're in coaching, it probably might help. So you as a coach, or anybody as a coach, is an infinite universe. Actually, all human beings are infinite universe. We all have so many capabilities that if you have to tap in one, it will always be difficult. You could be a great cook and a great parent and a great husband and a great at coding at the same time, right? So you're not one-dimensional human being. So it's hard to pick a niche, especially when you're not one-dimensional, which is pretty much everybody, right? And that's where coaches struggle, or anybody who is trying to find a niche struggles, because they go, I am all of it. Why should I pick one? Or how do I pick one? So you need to understand that you are this infinite universe, right? You could do all of it. But even in an infinite universe, you need to say, which star am I going to chase first, right? And you got to pick that one star so you can chase it, you can get to the destination, and then you go to the next, and then you go to the next, and then you go to the next. The reason to niche is so it brings focus to get attention towards that one thing, so we can take it to the finish line. It has very little to do with your future. Your future will probably be infinite, like you are as a human being, right? Your future is going to look like that, where it may have a weight loss program and a life coaching program on the same website. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that in time. But where you start is where you start. And all you want to ask yourself is to say, what is the point that I feel most comfortable starting, where I feel like I'm driven and drawn towards the most? All markets have infinite potential as well. I don't know what your financial goals are, but if they are in any range of under 10 million, any market is capable of delivering that to one person. All markets are world economy is in trillions and trillions of dollars. Coaching economy itself is in billions of dollars. Your initial financial goals are not hard to achieve in context of the market size. It will be your product quality. It would be a consistency, is your ability to drive results, it's your referral rate, how many people love and appreciate what you do. All of that is what really matters in how much market you will tap, versus thinking that, oh, this market is bigger versus that. And all markets are big enough for whatever, in my opinion. At least that's my perspective. When we entered the coaching space, we were told, oh, it's a saturated market. Nobody's going to listen to you. What are you talking about? We are probably, if not the top 5, definitely top 10 companies in coach training. I don't really, definitely don't try to figure that piece out. I don't compare, but we're definitely big impact company. So is Mindvalley. If you think of Mindvalley in context of personal transformation, again, when we started, it was a saturated market. Well, we are definitely top few companies in the personal transformation space. Again, who knows who does, but in general terms, with the visibility we have, we are probably top few companies, and we are not that old. Like, we are actually very new companies. When we started, the market was already saturated.
How do you overcome when you're the only believer amidst of family and friends that have such limiting beliefs, and you battle against the negativities? Any advice?
But there are two kind of motivations that everybody has. One is called extrinsic motivation, one is called intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is motivation driven by individuals and scenarios outside of us. It's a huge driving factor or a huge dampening factor because it definitely impacts us. It's also known as social contagion. This basically means that if you are in a society where they're limiting beliefs all the time, or neighborhoods where they're limiting beliefs all the time, you tend to believe less in the possibility of life. Versus if I move you to a society or a neighborhood where people have a lot more empowered beliefs, you'll tend to believe a lot more in yourself, right? So and this is just, let's take an example of if somebody grew up in, say, Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills in Los Angeles, versus somebody grew up in the slums of India. The mindset either of them will grow up with by default is, there is abundance around me, it's easy, we should always be in nature, life should be easy, we should eat healthy. In slums of India, you're like, did I get food today? Right? Think about the mindset of the person, right? Two completely, it's not their potential. Both of them have same potential, but their realities is impacting their capabilities of things that they can do. So that's extrinsic motivation for you. So what you're talking about is, what if extrinsic motivation is less and they are dampening your limiting beliefs and they're saying it's not possible, so on and so forth, is when you work on your internal motivation. You work on how do you drive yourself to create more outcomes for yourself. So it's called intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is something that is internal to us. Intrinsic motivation is a function of many different elements. Now, I'm not referring the book at this point. I'm just sharing what I believe drives us internally. Is firstly, is you want to have that great purpose that we were talking about previously, know your why. Because once you know that, you can always fall back on it. You can always fall back to say, but this is why I do what I do. And because of that, I'm going to keep going, right? That's called internal driver, right? Nobody else can influence it, only you can influence it. And you can find it because it's already within you. You'll have to do the journey that is required, but you can find it. It's there, right? Secondly, what you want to ask yourself is, what is it that you are willing to compromise over a small course of time to create long-term results, right? So, for example, and these are all practices that you will set up. For example, let's say, are you building a coaching career, Stormy, or e-commerce platform?
No,
What is it that you're building?
I've been working on building my own freight brokering transportation company over the past 2 years, and it's at the point I'm about to step off of my 9 to 5 and do it. My first customer is a Fortune 500 company, so I have the opportunity is right there, and but I'm surrounded because I'm from a small town in Oklahoma, in the middle of the U.S., surrounded by people who are just like, you're either a farmer, you work at Walmart or the factory. And what are you doing trying to do your own business? Like, what do you think? But I know I can, and I have the experience behind it. I've networked it out. I've done the technical side of it out. I've like, it's there. It's just right there. The only thing is I wasn't confident myself in phone sales. So I got into Mike Barron's program for that. So I have the internal belief, but everybody around me, especially my family, who's just very limited, they're like, yeah, good luck. Yeah. Like it's a pipe dream. But I have it in me. I know I can do it. It's just it's really hard to battle all of the negativity sometimes.
No, I hear you. So what I would invite you to create those rituals. So what you want to find out for yourself, Stormy, is that you want to write out a few rituals that bring you back to the motivation level that you need for the day, right? You're not trying to find motivation for the month, for the week, for the year, because it'll be hard. That's your purpose. Whenever you find it, whenever you define it, you're going to use that as your long-term motivator. But your short-term motivator is in the day and in the moment, right? Because it's the moments that where you go, like my husband said this, or your partner said it, or your kids said it, or your parents said something, and then suddenly you lose all the motivation, right? So what you want is rituals, right? Rituals are your guidance, right? Rituals are what are going to bring you back. So ask yourself, what are some of those rituals that get you motivated? For example, you could be watching a particular movie or a scene from a movie that invites you to feel motivated again. I don't know if you practice meditation, but meditation is great for calming your nervous system and bringing you back to a higher energetic level. I don't know if you hit the gym, but gym and working out, again, shakes your nervous system, brings you back, your endorphins go up, and you are able to find more energy, especially some kind of particular workouts like weight training. I know it's not like women feel like they shouldn't do it or whatever, but weight training is great for moving.
I listen to binaural waves.
Yes, so
A
fantastic.
lot
That's
of
great.
those.
Those are
They
great.
really calm me, and they're my background music at work and right before I go to sleep too. Different ones for different things, and they really help me a lot.
Perfect. So binaural waves, workout, meditation, having your own other set of rituals that you want. There's hypnotherapy that you can use. But basically, you're looking for 4 or 5 things that the moment you're aware that your motivation is dipping, you bring one of the rituals in. And here's the reason why. What will happen is over the course of the next 60 to 90 days, as you practice these rituals, they will become your default behaviors. And then nothing can touch you because you become this, you have the shield around you at all times, which anybody sending out any negative energy towards you, anything that will pull you down, it automatically goes, oh, I don't need that. And it just fuels itself. So the thing that we are really doing is building that habit. 60 to 90 days, that's what it will take. Sometimes it's faster, but if your scenario, your external motivators are too much, 60 to 90 days is at least you want to give yourself ritualistically, give yourself that day in, day out. It's like, okay, I'm feeling low. I just got aware of the idea that, oh, my motivation's down. Let me do one of my rituals, bring it back. And doing that for 60 days is hard, but there will be a point within those 60 days where you'll be like, it's automatic. Like you will be like, oh, I didn't even realize my neural system automatically said motivation's down, do that thing. And it'll be automatic. And so you will not seek external motivation. Now it will be amazing. I don't know how this group works, but this group could be a great group for you to use external motivators, right? Because these are all entrepreneurs. They're all trying to achieve great things. And I'm sure they are experiencing.
There's major synergy with my parents' group. Yes, I definitely feel like I'm in my world with these wonderful people, and then I step out of it into my existing world, and it's like it's so hard sometimes to keep my energy up and lift everybody around me up and focused. And so, yeah, thank you for that advice. I'll definitely implement some more. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not your job to motivate others. It's not your job. And don't make it your job. It's not your life. You can be, here's the thing. And this is even in, again, I don't know where you are in your journey of life, but even in relationship, the biggest mistake you can make with a partner, and this is a conversation me and my wife has had many times, the biggest mistake you can do is to feel responsible for them. Because if you are responsible for them, what will happen is if you're not motivated, they're not motivated. If they're not motivated, you're not motivated. All you're doing is actually reflecting exactly what's happening for the other person. You're not empowering the person when you're reflecting. You're taking away. You're adding to. Your job as a partner is not to be their support system. Your job as a partner is to walk along, right? It's to go for that walk together in life. It's to say, hey, I see that you are going through a distressful situation right now. You're not motivated right now. I'm here to walk with you, not to take your energy, not to give you my energy. That's not my job. My job is to walk along as you find your energy back, because that's their job. It's their life. They are fully responsible and capable. Don't take away their power by being of support when you don't need to, and you never need to. They are more powerful if you let them be.
Guys, what up? It's your boy Mike Barron. Thank you for checking out the YouTube channel. Truly appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you forget, I'm going to come through this computer right now and I'm going to close you my damn self. Let's go. I'll see you at the top, y'all.